Hello everybody, I'm Art, it's nice to see you. Ex-family scapegoat, and today I actually wasn't planning on making this video, but something happened to me this week, actually yesterday, that shook me quite a bit. And I think it's really important to talk about this, and I also want to show you guys how I'm going to process this, how I'm processing this actually as it's happening. For those of you who don't know me, I've been no contact for many years with my entire family. I come from a narcissistic family system. My abuser was my mother. And I'm talking about, the typical stuff you find in these families: verbal abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional, all that stuff. Growing up, being labeled as the demon child, the cause for anything that's ever gone wrong in my family, and the crazy one, and so on. And of course, what they called crazy was actually a child that was suffering from trauma because of what was going on at home behind closed doors when nobody was looking. I've gone no contact many times, and every time I was lured back in, I've reached for help. I really did everything in my power, actually, before I really called it quits. And I talk about this stuff in all my videos. And so after so many years of no contact, my father showed up at my door. This was not expected. This was something that I did not, it was just seeing his face was a bit of a shock. My adrenaline went up, my hands were shaking a little bit. I opened the door because I wasn't there was a knock on the door, and I just opened the door, who is it, and there he was. There's this old man, and he says to me, "I'm here to see my daughter. I want to see my daughter, how she's doing." And before I could do anything, he came up to me and he gave me a hug. And I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. I was in freeze. And for a moment, a very brief moment, I thought to myself, did he wake up? Did he finally wake up? Is he actually aware of what's going on? Did he wake up from the spell, right? From the illusion, from her manipulation tactics? Did he see through her manipulation tactics? Did something, Is he remorseful? A lot of thoughts went through my mind, and my inner child, a part of me was like, do I have Papa back? Is Papa back? It was... It's it was very brief, but it was there. My inner child woke up, and then he walked in, and he said to me, "I'm here on behalf of your mother." And it's like, oh God. Okay, Dad, listen. If you want to have a relationship like what I told you last time we spoke, then you need to respect my boundaries. And you don't bring her into this house. I don't care about what she's doing. I don't care about what she wants. I don't want anything from her. And the thing is that this has been the pattern in my life. Every single time that I've gone no contact, it was always my father or my brother, but mostly my father, who would show up, who would play this emotional card, and then who would lure me back in with promises of change. Very often, he would lure me back in by telling me that she's very sick and that she's dying. I was told once at one point that she had cancer and that I had to come back. And so I went back, and then it turned out that the cancer wasn't real. There was no cancer. Nothing was happening. They straight up manipulated me into going back by pretending. It's mind games that are so cruel, And so as soon as he said, "I'm here about your mother," the pattern was, no, definitely not. I'm definitely no contact, and this is the way it's going to stay. And so I said to him, no, we're not going to talk about her. This is my boundary. I put my foot down. If you want to actually sit down and talk to me and see how I'm doing and have a relationship with me, that's cool, but you don't bring her into this. All of a sudden, guys, that kind face, it was like an automatic switch. I wasn't looking at the same person, because all of a sudden he erupted into this rage and he started screaming his lungs out at me. My children and my husband were upstairs. My husband ran downstairs to see what was going on, and instantly that illusion cracked. It went from this moment of tenderness to the exact same pattern. His yelling was denial, control, manipulation all over again. Everything he was saying. And then he started waving money around. Basically, he was telling me that my mother had money for me and that she's on her deathbed. And this time it seems to be legit. And he started waving money around, telling me that even though I don't appreciate it, there's money for me. And, he was yelling at me. And then he looked up and he's like, where are the kids? Where are the kids? And I was like, no, you don't have access to my kids. Years ago, when you guys left, when I set my boundaries and you guys decided to abandon me for setting boundaries, I had to sit down with my kids and explain to them why all of a sudden there was no grandparents and no cousins, no nothing. The amount of work that I had to do with my kids to keep them healthy and happy, and make sure that they were good, that they were good. And he, it was just this tornado. He was yelling, he had rage, and then he wanted to go upstairs. And he was like, I've got money for them too. I've got money for them too. And he was, he was pulling these things about money. And I stayed calm and I said, Dad, your wife made me really, really very sick. And that's why I set a boundary with her. You remember the letter I wrote you where I explained all these things? How I was diagnosed with that? He cut me off and he said, I don't care. I don't care. He said, I don't care about any of this. I don't want to hear about any of this. Still yelling, screaming at me. And he said he didn't care about the pain she caused. He didn't care about any of it. And at that point, my husband obviously intervened. And I said to him, get out of my house. And I went upstairs and my husband brought him outside. And my husband stayed calm and he talked to him. He tried to sort of reason with him. He said, listen, you haven't seen your daughter in so many years. First of all, you need to call if you want to come. If you want to have a relationship with her, you don't just come in. You don't just start yelling while you're here, and we have kids. You can't just come in like that without there being any sort of discussion. And, and the way he was behaving was that he owned me. It was still this whole hierarchy thing. This I'm above and you're nothing, and I have access to anything that belongs to you belongs to me. It was... You don't, it's like I'm a king and you're a servant, and whatever you have here, is within my power to control. That's how he was behaving. And my husband made it very clear, no more uninvited visits, no inheritance, no pretending, and the boundary stands. And so as my husband was talking to him, he found out, she's in the hospital and she's on her last day, it's the final, it's the final hour for her. And he made it very clear, reinforced to my dad that I don't want anything. I don't want her money. I don't want nothing from her. My father's arrival wasn't just like a simple visit. It was the reenactment of the old system. He approached me with a warm hug, gifts, right? Money, a hook. Something to awaken my hope, something to hook me, something to draw me in. And then, as he did this, he brought in the same subject, my mother. And that triggered the old dynamic, that triggered basically that whole thing of, generally in the past, what I did when this happened is I always fell for it and I would go back. He would lure me in. But what happened was that I actually set a boundary. And when I set a boundary, like, don't talk about her, I'm happy to see you, but you don't bring her into this, he punished it. He punished my boundary. And this confirms to me that the system has not changed at all. The old pattern of control and denial is alive and well despite years and years and years and years of no contact. Now, my father's rage, it wasn't about what we said to each other. It was me threatening the illusion of a happy family that he was protecting and is still trying to protect. Because if he allows my version of reality to exist, that means that he will have to face his own guilt. Especially now, like the fact that he failed to protect me when I was a child. The fact that he aligned with somebody with harm, with an abuser, with somebody who did terrible things to me. His image of a family man, the good husband, the reasonable father figure or whatever, that would collapse. And so instead of listening and integrating the truth, instead of, listening, he turned and he attacked it. And that's not love. This is psychological self-preservation at my expense. That's what happened. And this incident reinforced something. I'm starting to see a much clearer picture now. And this will actually definitely give me some peace and some closure. This is validation. Because the reason why I always felt those, at this point in my healing, I no longer grieve the way that I used to. I would feel sad every once in a while, but I could shake it off and live my life and live well and be happy, But I would still get those occasional moments of grief, when it came to my father, And the reason why I still felt those brief moments of grief when I thought about him is because I really felt sorry for him, and of what could have been of our relationship if she wasn't there. But she was horrible towards him, horrible towards him. And as she got physically violent towards him, just, she threw objects at him, she would hit him with things, and he's never touched her. But he ran out of the house because she was so violent towards him, just to give you guys an idea. So, but what I saw yesterday, it gave me this realization that there is no such thing as there's no could have been anymore, because he actually was just as toxic as her. And I always identified my experiences as scapegoating, but now I'm fully also identifying as being that parent's golden child, and how quickly they will turn on you and will rage on you when you fall out of favor. So yeah, it's possible that my father is narcissistic too, or at least emotionally enmeshed. But that's a fact, that he's emotionally enmeshed with my narcissistic mother's worldview. And either way, it doesn't matter anymore. you know, he's still orbiting around this same gravitational pull, you know, which is my mother's narrative and control, even if she's dying and gone, you know. And so this whole thing really shook my nervous system yesterday. Like, I'm okay now. But when he was there, I felt safe for 1 second when he hugged me. And then I got ambushed, you know. It was classic betrayal trauma response. I mean, you know, there was affection, and then all of a sudden there was rage. And I felt like I betrayed myself. You know, in that moment, I was angry at myself. I betrayed myself, you know, that's how it felt like. And I also feel disgust right now. It's my body's way of saying that I did not consent to this. You know, that was, you lied. That hug, that touch, that I did not consent to this, you know. And so I definitely feel the emotional disgust. And aside from disgust, I can tell you right now, yesterday, there was fear, there was sadness, and there was anger, all mixed into one sort of mush. And this is really an old trauma wound that got, you know, that got poked. And it can feel like these emotions are sort of crashing into each other, you know, but each one has a job to do. These emotions are actually, it's important for me right now to allow myself to feel them. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm doing. You know, essentially the fear, the reason for the fear, that's my body's way of saying something is happening. It's an alarm system, you know, something unsafe is happening. That's my body telling me something unsafe is happening right now. And this is, of course, historical fear because I'm an adult. And the part of me that was conditioned to believe that standing up for myself meant hurt, punishment, physical abuse, you know, that part woke up. And so I allowed it to go through me. I felt it in my arms. My hands were shaking. I felt it in my chest. And I had this, I felt really paranoid. Like I was really I went through a brief moment of, okay, he's here. Does that mean, what does that mean? Like I was just, is my safety gone? You know, are other people going to start coming here? Like what is my safety? It was a brief moment, you know, but of course I had to, I breathed through it. And I did grounding exercises, you know, you put your feet on the ground, and feel the ground support you, you know, and the breathing. Took some slow, deep breaths, and then I paid attention to what's around me, my animals, my piggy. You know, just the sensation of touching concrete things around me, and I'm an adult, and he doesn't have to control me. He doesn't control me anymore, although he was behaving like he was controlling me fully, still at the time. And it's pretty crazy how that fear response, you know, we're so conditioned to feel it, you know, even though they don't actually have power over us anymore. So I had to let that pass. It didn't last long, but that initial shock when I went upstairs, I felt it, you know. And then of course there's the sadness, and you know, it's not, I don't feel sad about my mother. I actually feel relief. I feel relief. Ding dong, the witch is dead. You know, my abuser is on her last day. She might be dead now, you know, and finished. It's over, guys. It's over. It's over, you know, for that part. That part. And funnily enough, I came across an article, a science article yesterday. You know, I opened my laptop and I was just looking at, browsing on some stuff, and then I saw an article right there that they recorded somebody for the first time, somebody who was dying was recorded, their brain waves were measured as they were dying before and after death. It was somebody who suffered from seizures, but then while they were being scanned, they actually died. They had a heart attack and died or something like that. And it said that it recorded the brain waves, and that it corresponded to that thing that people say, that they see their life flashing, the entire life flashing before their eyes. And I'm a spiritual person, and I have my own spiritual beliefs, and I think this is, and personally I feel like this is tied to something bigger than ourselves, and it gave me comfort knowing that, because my abuser is going to watch her life replay from beginning to end. She's going to watch everything that she did, and there's nothing that she can do now to save herself from that. There's nothing that she can do to change. It's too late, obviously. It's too late, And to me, that's karma. That's, whatever happens to her spirit after that, it's her karma at this point, But the grief that I really feel is, because I already grieved her, it was really, like I said, towards having this realization that, wow, they're not changing. I already knew it, but I got validation yesterday, complete validation. They're not changing. This is never going to change. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those dynamics in a minute. After that, the anger, of course, the anger is anger at my father. How dare you come into my house after so many years, no contact, after having disowned me. You give me a hug and you show me love, and then suddenly you show me, and then the rage comes out, It's, and there's anger, for sure, And I had to name it. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel afraid. And I made space for those emotions within me. Everything I talk about, I preach, and it's stuff that it's important to do these exercises. It's really important to not fight your emotions. It's important to not fight it, but to really stay with it. So after years of no contact, my father's sudden disappearance and then reappearance, it triggered my nervous system, but it passed. And my situation right now is quite confirmed. The literature of scapegoating is, I can confirm the literature of scapegoating with the experience that I have now. When the abuser dies, the system doesn't die. It reorganizes around itself and around protecting that narrative. And it's possible that the smear campaigns and the scapegoating will intensify for me right now. And for whoever is going through this, when the abuser is close to death or died, the scapegoat, blaming the scapegoat may double down. They may double down on blaming the scapegoat, My father, what's happening, the enabler, with the enablers here, is that he probably sees himself as the keeper of the image of the family, as the executor of her will, and those roles require for him to deny the truth. And by maintaining my boundaries, I broke that core rule: is we don't talk about our problems. Silence protects the system. We don't talk about those things, And yeah, I'm crazy. And, whatever I felt, like he said, he told me yesterday, I don't care about what you've been through. I don't care. This is not about you. Oh yeah, when it's why is it never about me, Dad? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's never been about me, never. Always the abuser had to take center stage, And so by maintaining my boundaries, I broke a core rule. And I can also picture there being shame because I'm not going to the funeral. Of course not. I'm not interested in being a part of that. I have no interest in that. So certainly the daughter is not going to be at the funeral. There's going to be some explaining to do why the daughter isn't there. This is going to taint the family image and the community that he's in and so on. I mean, the way people view him is very typical thing that we scapegoats experience, is that the image that people have of our family is not reality. It's not what really happens. It's not what happens behind closed doors, And when he said he doesn't care, when we were fighting, when he was screaming at me, actually, that was absolute invalidation of my lived reality. It wasn't just refusing to have empathy towards me, but he was protecting himself from guilt and shame. And that's why I think that the smear campaigns and possibly trying to learn the scapegoat back into narcissistic family system will intensify, because now it's really important to keep that family image alive, that this is a healthy family, everything is fine. Acknowledging our suffering would mean facing their own failure to protect us. So instead, they will do this defensive cruelty. It's a way to silence the truth that they don't want to feel. They don't want to deal with the truth. Acknowledging our suffering would mean facing their own failure, right? So I can confirm to you guys today, that if the enablers come for you, whether it's a parent, a sibling, or someone that defended the abuser, it is rarely about love. It's not about love. It's about control and preserving the family story. And this is what I learned. Well, I already knew it, but now I'm living it even more, or I'm continuing to live it, shall I say. My mother is really dying this time, and suddenly my father shows up after years and years and years of silence and waving money around me as if I'm someone who's all about money. I mean, it shows you how little they don't know you. Another thing he did, he called me crazy. I mean, they will continue to try and control you, And when the scapegoat stands up for their truth, the whole narrative collapses, So enablers don't want you to be healed. They want you to be quiet, and they will quiet you with presence. They will quiet you with money. And every time I've learned that if you refuse to take the bait, if you don't take the bait, if you say no thank you, the system will actually unravel before you, just as I could see my father unravel before me. Because in the past I would have been like, oh, I feel empathy, I have forgiveness, all that stuff, But this time I was like, nope, I'm not giving nothing. If you want to have a relationship, cool, but I'm not going to have a relationship. I don't want to know anything about her, So it's not always about reconciliation, It's about recruiting you back into the story that almost killed you, so that they can continue, the dysfunction can continue even without the narcissist being there. So the abuser's death does not end the dysfunction. It can actually intensify it for a while. So the person may be dying, but what's alive is the system that they created. The habits of denial, silence, gaslighting, all that stuff, it just carries on without you. Your truth will always be a threat to them. And this is what I want to say. Your truth will always be a threat to them. Families can reach out pretending nothing happened. They can reach out giving you gifts. They will show you a certain face. But I mean, the literature and what I've just witnessed just now, it's really like just a mask. It's just a mask to keep the dysfunction going and to lure you back in through confusion, guilt, and all of that stuff, and shaming you. So the best focus now is really to focus on safety and grounding. you know, safe, you know, little rituals where I feel like I'm safe, doing exercises. Like I actually feel okay today. Yesterday, I was affected by this, but today I shook it off quite fast because I've been doing this for so long now that I'm actually pretty proud of myself, guys. I didn't have a panic attack, nothing. I mean, I had the reaction, you know, I had that initial, like, you know, but that's my nervous system. That's, you know, that's the fight flight response that triggered because it's dangerous. It's danger, signaling of danger. But I mean, that passed, and I was able to recover fairly quickly. And second thing is keeping boundaries and making the boundaries clear and enforcing them no matter what, because the second that you don't, you know, you slip, you let something in, just even a little bit, you know, a tiny bit, and then the door will swing right open and hit you in the face while it's at it, you know. And the last thing, of course, is the emotional processing. The hardest thing to process right now, I gotta say, it's disgust. I feel disgusted. That's the main emotion that's sort of left over right now. And really important to, you know, get some sort of, you know, surround yourself with supportive people as we go through through this. And again, I know this is not a luxury that everybody can afford, for sure. I'm aware of this. Sometimes, you know, my support for a very long time was a cat and walks in nature, any way that I could ground myself, you know, because in the past, like I said, I've been no contact many times, you know, so, and I've spent the majority of my life as a hermit, really, you know, so this is a bit different now, you know, and it took a long time, but it's really a result of no contact with anybody. And it really helps, you know, when you bring yourself to a place of safety, I think it's a lot easier to process everything that's going on. And this is confirmation that they don't change. So stick to your boundaries and don't let things like money or anything at all trick you into a situation where you are going to get sick again, where you're going to be abused again, where you're going to be made into the devil again, you know, evil spawn from hell again. I mean, that took a bit of processing to be spoken to like that after so many years of being in respectful relationships, you know. It's like, wow, the stuff that we actually put up with and normal and think is okay, you know. It's you know, you gotta trust yourself. You gotta trust your instincts, because you're right. You are right, even though everybody around you tells you that it's you and you're wrong and the problem is you. I mean, I have a very healthy relationship with my husband. We've been together for like 14 years, you know. And you know, if you look at the relationship that these people have with their spouses and the chaos and all that, I mean, you really have to look at the facts and everything around you and keep yourself absolutely grounded and go, no, this is not me. Nope. And I'm not taking that. I'm not absorbing that. That doesn't belong to me. It belongs to them. And that's where it shall stay. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. Remember, I love myself. I trust myself. And I see you soon.